The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is a robot with countless irrelevant menu options. Which is why with USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable, all at the touch of a button. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
USAA.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
And the half hour brought to you by Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, light business, boat, motorcycle, RV. And not only that, but also Medicare products. They do a great job making sure you're fully insured, and they do a great job of doing everything they can to save you money. It is all at Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. I mean,
most people consider it a good thing that they can't hear me. But,
no.
In this instance.
Look, first of all, you blew away DiMaggio's streak years ago. I mean, really.
That was the aim from the crib. That's what I was aiming for in life.
That was the aim from day one. All right. So it is finally draft week, Green Bay. I did ask you last week, but just remind us. Will you watch the draft at home like we do, or where will you watch it from?
You know, I will watch the draft at home, and I would anyway. And I've been asked that a lot just because my general proximity to Green Bay is closer than it is to, say, Los Angeles. But, one, Green Bay is 5 hours away. Two, there's about 450 hotel rooms in Green Bay, and they're probably all booked by ESPN. Yeah. Three, I don't know if there is a less media-friendly event than the draft.
I agree.
There's not exactly a whole lot of people to talk to. They whisk away the draft picks quickly. You don't have access to them at all before they go up on stage to, take their cap and hug the commissioner and all that. There really is no value to being there from a media perspective. ESPN, obviously NFL Network is there as well, but ESPN owns the rights to it, and they go all in with it. It's their event. They're not going to do anything outside of their own exclusive access to whoever it is that's there, and there really aren't very many people there. You might notice, too, whoever it is, that I don't even know this. Maybe somebody else is more aware of this. I'm not even sure who it is turns the card in, if they even turn a card in anymore.
Right.
I don't even know personnel-wise who does that within an NFL team. But for years, they've all been back in their own headquarters. You see the shots of them. They do the pan celebration, and they're really fired up that they got this guy in the fourth round and that whole bit. All of the access that they provide at a team level, they're already there. You're camped out in the media room watching the draft along with the other draft writers, kind of hanging out and doing your thing in there, and eventually they'll roll in the coach, the GM, the position coach, or they'll have the conference call with the pick. A really long, tedious day doing all of that. So maybe these guys would rather be in Green Bay hanging out among the stands, kind of walking around looking for something to do. But, yeah, it's a really hectic, busy day, but there's nothing access-wise that would make it worth being a media member in person.
In watching it,
I've gone as a fan before, and that's all right. I mean, it's a big party.
Yeah. In watching it, who do you watch and why?
Who do I watch, like, network-wise?
Yeah, for the draft, and why?
I don't know what I should say here. I watch ESPN. I personally, NFL Network is insufferable to me. I can't stand it. We have kind of a running thing, and I've been a couple different places now the last couple of years. A few people have been with me at each of these stops, and it's sort of a tradition. You call out what network you're going to watch.
Okay.
Somebody will handle whatever online. You get different stuff, different bits. Usually, like the team headquarter perspective, you get that video. You're looking to be able to do something off of that. And one group watches the ESPN broadcast, the other group watches the NFL Network broadcast. Those who know and those who have done it before want the ESPN one. The ones who don't know or don't really care typically haven't covered, the draft for 4 days. But it's just my own personal taste. Some people salt, some people pepper. For me, I am already expecting to be basically glued to this for the better part of the next 60 hours when I sit down, say an hour before the draft starts Thursday.
Right.
I can't stand to listen to NFL Network. Most of their people, it's almost as if they picked them to be this way. I can't stand to listen to them for more than a half an hour at a time. I couldn't imagine listening to that all day. That's just way too much for me. There is a production value as well. I understand how much heat ESPN gets for basically everything that it does, and some of it's deserved. Some of it is because they're just the biggest and the best, so they're going to take heat. That's the nature of how things work. Their production value is just a lot better. I feel like they get the better analysts, more of what they do, especially with the downtime in between, the things that you have to kind of segue quickly in and out of. They're better at that. They're more prepared for it. And it's not just, let's make up some time by telling some stupid jokes. They have ways to kind of go into this segment or that thing. They're more prepared. And typically you're able to do that when you have the amount of money that you have. And again, it's their event. So for me, ESPN's a better one to watch, but I will dive in online and kind of take a look around what teams are doing with their coverage, their own broadcasts, just to get a sense of, what's being said. And you're always kind of looking out for interesting tidbits, funny stuff that comes up, the memorable moments that you want to grab. You got to be on the lookout for that. Bolo is something we say a lot. Be on the lookout, for whatever might come up. This is really what people are looking for on draft day. You probably have a pretty good idea who they're going to take in the first round, and the average fan has no clue who they're going to take after that. So whatever insight that you can give them, whatever is humanistic, that lends well to coverage beyond just the scouting jargon and all that stuff that, frankly, people are sick of probably a week ago, if not longer ago. They don't need any more of the laser rocket arm and dropping balls in the bucket and stuff like that. They want to know who the kid is that they just took. And really the main question to answer, and we've talked about this, how is this guy going to help us win a Super Bowl? Not in a literal sense, but what's he doing to add to the team? What does the team get from this? You're looking any way that you can find information on that player, and the team website, can often be the best form of it because they've got the most active coverage. They're going to have first crack at the player when he was drafted. They're going to have the exclusive video with him when he comes in. So you kind of keep track of all that stuff as you go throughout the whole period.
The league can be a copycat league, as we know. Saquon Barkley broke through and had a great year. And now you're looking at Ashton Genty possibly being a top 10 pick, and Amari and Hampton, and maybe in the second round at Travion Henderson. How do you look at those three running backs? And is a running back slightly more attractive now because of Barkley, or is it still the same in your mind? That's
an interesting question, and I would say this. I think with Barkley, it's almost a chicken versus the egg conversation, because I certainly we're not having any problems with his athleticism, with his explosiveness. We've seen that come to roost. I would argue he's in a better position to exploit that in Philadelphia than he was in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And because of what they did, he added to something that was there in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
And Philadelphia got something that was there in Barkley. The real issue here was it was always under the pall of running backs don't have value, they don't matter anymore, blah, 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 they're not being paid, all of this stuff. Well, Barkley destroyed that entire argument, obviously. You have a guy like Ashton Genty who has that type of explosion in his game. The question is, do you want to have a versatile three-down back on the field? And that question, in my opinion, was answered affirmatively by a couple teams 5-6 years ago whenever Barkley came into the league. More teams now are answering it that way,
right,
largely because of Barkley. But the Giants' inability to do a whole lot with Barkley in all phases of the game, to put him out into space, to have the right playmakers around him to help set up the space that he needs to really maximize his ability. If you don't have that, you shouldn't be worried about the running back in a premium round.
right.
I give you Najee Harris, who, to be fully honest, is almost literally half the player Saquon Barkley is. It's funny, if you look at their stats together, Barkley has twice as much as basically every stat that matters in the NFL than Harris does. The Steelers' offense was not going to help Najee Harris out a whole lot. What they wanted him to do, interestingly enough, is a lot like Hampton.
Yeah.
I've said this a couple times. I think Hampton is the most Mike Tomlin running back who's ever lived.
Right.
I'd be surprised if he didn't come out with him somehow, one way or another.
Right.
But Barkley, Gentry, these guys are big-time playmakers. And when they're inside of an offense that wants to be full of big-time playmakers and call an offense for that, you need dudes. You look at what happened in Detroit with Ben Johnson, it's the same type of thing. They brought in playmakers. Now, we scoffed them at the time. We laughed about how valueless running backs are and how you can get 10 of them in later rounds and all this stuff that just simply isn't true. It's a dollar question more than anything else. They're making hay with a variety of options in their backfield. So it's not just necessarily about one guy. It's your ability to have a couple of them. And in Philadelphia's case, they don't have to do it with the running back. They can do it with their receivers as well. But either way, they're coming up with ways to get these guys in space. And I think Gentry certainly is that type of player. I don't know if Hampton is that much of a playmaker. Junkins as well. These are plotting kind of power runners, some elusiveness, but not really a whole lot, very consistent, very durable. You like their makeup. You like their game. But obviously, Gentry is the one that you're thinking about when it comes to a comparison with the reigning offensive player of the year. And a large part of that is because he is able to exploit open space wherever he starts on the field. And oddly enough, this is all the same argument that one infamous Steelers running back made a long time back in the day when he wouldn't take the franchise tag. Right. He wanted to be an all-around playmaker. Le'Veon Bell, of course, is who I'm talking about. Right. They used him that way. And he was very dynamic. He was without injuries, a 2,000-plus yard from scrimmage back. One of the best receivers on the team, let alone obviously the best running back on the team. I think Gentry has that kind of ability. It's a question of whoever wants him is going to have to commit to using him that much and take on the risk of injury, of course. But you also have to have a scheme that can play wide. They can not worry so much about the quarterback attacking from shotgun most of the time, 5 guys on the line, getting rid of the ball in space, and letting playmakers make plays down the field. If a team wants to do that, which I think Ben Johnson's Chicago Bears would love him if he falls to 10, Pete Carroll at 6 with Las Vegas makes a lot of sense as well. If you want to do that, Gentry's your guy, and I don't care where you're picking. He's going to be a huge success with either of those coaches focusing on them for 3 down. But that also means, though, you got to keep doing it. You can't give him 12 touches a game because you didn't get to it. He's got to be fed. You've got to you have to be committed to getting him the ball in space. If you do that, I think he's going to be excellent.
Because I think the key with Gentry is not just what he did this past season with 2,601 yards. Yeah, in broadcasting the Fiesta Bowl, you had to research guys. He didn't do a lot in the pass game this year, but he had over 40 catches in his second season in 2023 for like 13 yards a catch. In other words, he can get involved in the pass game. I think that's one of the keys to drafting him.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think Gentry robbed himself of carries because he broke plays off tackle for 40 yards a pop. That's how you get to 2,600 rushing yards. He wasn't you couldn't stop him. But if you saw him exactly as you put it the year before, he showed he can catch the ball. In workouts, he showed he can catch the ball. He can run routes. He can get himself open. That's not a problem. It's not like they didn't. They got him the ball plenty. It just seemed to work pretty well for them running. I think he would be in a more dynamic passing offense, a shorter passing offense in the NFL. That's the team that would want to take him, somebody that wants to do that kind of thing. And again, we saw Ben Johnson do that plenty, and he did a great job in Detroit when he was there. And I think Chicago is open to that now. A relative lack of playmakers, they're going to continue to add to that with a good young quarterback, a good tight end set that they have there as well. There are ways to attack short. I think this is why Ben Johnson was so excited to go to Chicago and basically didn't talk to anybody else. Not Caleb Williams as much as just the foundation of everything that they have fits in well to how he sees offensive football being played. We've seen Pete Carroll probably run more of your power gap stuff than anything else, but I think in taking this job, he's got to look very clearly at what he has. Geno Smith is not going to be a guy that's going to throw you to victory every single week. You're going to have to do a lot. And if you want to do that, you got to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands and into playmakers' hands. And they don't really have any of those either. Genty, without question, is going to be the best playmaker available overall at 6. And if it's me, that's my prediction. But for the sake of football, I would really like to see Genty in Chicago because I think they really could do a lot of things together. That would be a fun team to watch.
Finally, what's, to you, going into this, something that intrigues you and you're interested to see what the answer is?
Oh, that's a good question. How does the NFL truly look at quarterbacks 2 through 5 in this draft? In other words, where's the 5th quarterback drafted being drafted? 5th round or 3rd? 2nd even? It's interesting in the sense that I don't like the ceiling really on any of them overall. There's some good stuff there with Cam Ward. The one we're talking about the most at the end of this might be, call it 10 years from now, it might be Jalen Milroe.
Yeah.
He's the one. He's the toolsy one. He's got the best makeup, but he doesn't know how to throw a ball.
Right, exactly.
That's obviously a problem.
Yeah, you have pitchers and throwers. Well, he's a thrower, not a quarterback.
You're going to have to teach him quite a bit. He's going to have to lock into getting better. At the same time, though, and I know how convenient these examples are, but if you're looking at a ceiling, basically, I am not at all comparing the two. As far as their development goes, though, there's a reasonable comparison in a high and low way. Lamar Jackson coming out of college and Jalen Milroe coming out of college.
Right.
You see the physical talent of Milroe. He doesn't know how to control his body. His feet are not very good. In other words, his footwork, he's off balance. Jackson had some of those, not all of them. Jackson was clearly going to be a highly drafted quarterback. In my opinion, I think he went later than he probably should have.
Right.
Clearly it looks like that now in retrospect, but at the time I was like, this is a guy you might take in the 20s. I think Milroe can kind of draw on some of the same comparisons in the sense that not aiming to play him in year one, which you might remember Lamar Jackson really didn't. He came in packages and stuff, but he wasn't there yet. And his second year, while he took over the league just as a dynamic athlete, he wasn't a good passer. He's not ever going to be one of the 5 best throwers in the game.
Right.
Milroe, though, has a better arm.
Right.
And there are a lot of people that, I think this is crazy, but there are a lot of people that say he might be the best running quarterback we've ever seen. I think he's really good, but I've seen Lamar Jackson do things that I didn't think were physically possible, so I'm not going to crown him with that yet. But look at that makeup. If you want to build something the way Baltimore did, and you look at the foundation of their team, for as good as they were with an inexpensive quarterback who just simply couldn't be schemed to be stopped when he could just run. They didn't. They had because of his running ability, they had a long runway before he had to throw the ball well. And he's a much better passer now than he was. Again, though, he's not going to be the best quarterback in the league, but he's consistently among the best producers. I think Milroe will intrigue somebody to that level. And because of that, I wonder where you'd put him. And if he is somebody that's going to escape the Steelers at 21, or if the Saints aren't going to try to make a move to get back, fall back a bit in round one, to add some components to their team to buy them time to let their first-round pick, build in season. I'm not sure it's the best spot for him in Pittsburgh, but I would definitely think teams are going to talk themselves into his ability, and they've probably talked down what they feel about him overall, because I think he's kind of the secret dynamic player of this draft. Wouldn't at all surprise me if he was taken in the first round, but I don't think he gets past Cleveland at 33 if he doesn't. So to me, I think that's really where the fun part of it is, how a team sees him and how they want to develop him. And then where do the other quarterbacks go before him and after him? Who's it going to be?
Yeah.
Who will be third? Who will be second? Maybe it's not even going to be Shedeur. We don't know that. It's always open to speculation and intrigue. To me, I think Milroe is the most intriguing player in this draft, just for those reasons.
Awesome as always, my friend. Thank you.
Definitely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Neal Coolong joining us on the show today as we overcome all the suits shenanigans.